In this question, we have a photon with an energy of 5.91 times 10 to the negative 19 joules. And our question is asking us to convert this into units of electron volts. So our first thing to do is figure out what is our conversion factor. So let's go and have a look at our equation sheet on the reference page. Now I'm looking at energy. Here I can see 1 electron volt is equal to 1.60 times 10 to the negative 19 joules. So I'm going to write that down. 1 electron volt is equal to 1.60 times 10 to the power of negative 19 joules. That's my conversion factor. Okay, and now I'm trying to convert from joules into electron volts. So we're using the train tracks method shown here. And for this method, we're going to multiply our question number by some conversion factor as a fraction. So the way this method works is that we want to get rid of joules and swap it out for electron volts. So right now I have joules up here. To get rid of the joules, I'm going to have to divide by joules so that they cancel out. So I'm going to have joules on the bottom of my fraction here. Now I want to convert into electron volts. So I want to have electron volts on the top of my fraction. However, when I multiply by this fraction, in order for it to not actually affect the meaning of my number, overall I need this fraction to be equal to 1. So to make that happen, the top half of the fraction and the bottom half of the fraction have to actually equal each other. So that's where my conversion factor comes in. One half of this equation is going to go on one side of my fraction, the other half is going to go on the other side of my fraction, and as a result, the top and bottom are going to be equal. So I can see here 1 electron volt, so the 1 is going to go with the electron volt, and 1.60 times 10 to the negative 19 joules are equal. So with the joules, I'm going to put 1.60. 10 to the power of is just E, negative 19. Now I can cancel through the joules because they appear on both the top and the bottom. And now finally, to calculate my answer, I'm going to multiply anything that's on the top together, and I'm going to divide by anything that's on the bottom. So to show you that below, I've got 5.91 times 10 to the power of negative 19. I'm going to multiply by 1 electron volt, and I'm dividing that all by 1.60 times 10 to the power of negative 19. So that's the calculation that I'm doing. And when I put that all into my calculator, I get 3.69 electron volts. So my answer is going to be 3.69. This question is asking us to do the opposite. We're starting with an energy in electron volts, and we need to convert it into joules. So we're going to follow the same method, and we're using the same conversion factor that I've still got drawn up here that we found on the reference sheet. So in our train tracks over here, we've got 3.63 electron volts written. I want to change from electron volts into joules. So I know I want electron volts on the bottom of my conversion fraction so that it will cancel out. And I want to turn that into joules. So I'm going to have joules on the top, so that's what will be left in the end. Then I need to put in my numbers so that the top of my fraction and the bottom of my fraction equal each other. So using my conversion factor up here, we have 1 electron volt is equal to 1.6 times 10 to the negative 19 joules. Okay, wonderful. Now we're ready to calculate. So same as before. My electron volts are going to cancel, and then anything on the top will multiply, and anything on the bottom will divide. So I've got 3.63 times 1.60 times 10 to the power of negative 19, all divided by 1. So putting that in my calculator, and that has a unit of joules, I get an answer of 5.81 times 10 to the power of negative 19 joules. So I can type that into my answer box. 5 0.81 E for times 10 to the power of negative 19.